It's arguably been one of the most successful tools employed by the United States in the fight against global terrorism. But the use of armed drones is not without controversy. So when the US announced it would begin allowing the sale of lethal drones to some friendly and allied countries, largely those in the Middle East, the decision was met with a mixed reaction. To be clear, the United States' decision is not just based on military considerations. China is already exporting drones to at least 9 countries, including Pakistan, Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, and is looking for other international buyers. So, with some strong lobbying from the vast military-industrial complex here in the US, marketplace competition is also playing a role. The question is, what does it mean for potential targets and the future of military conflict? Later we'll hear from those for and against the sale of lethal drones. But first, some background from CCTV's Jim Spellman.
A change in U.S. policy will allow the sale of armed military drones to more countries. Unarmed surveillance drones are already sold by the U.S. to several nations, but currently only the U.K. may purchase armed drones capable of attacks like this. Drones have become a key part of U.S. military strategy, seen as cheap, accurate, and low risk compared to manned warplanes and missiles.
Conventional air power, or missiles, are far less precise than drones and are likely to cause more civilian casualties and more local outrage.
Countries around the world have been eager to take advantage of the technology, and other nations, especially China, have also been developing sophisticated drone technology to sell globally. The U.S. now wants to exert some control as the technology spreads. Morris Davis is a retired U.S. Air Force colonel.
If we didn't do it, someone else would, and I think it's to our advantage to be the one that provides it.
Overseas sales of armed drones will require Pentagon approval, be limited to smaller drones, and must adhere to international laws. The U.S. has faced backlash over civilian deaths in drone attacks, and there are concerns that as drone tech spreads, so will misuse of the weapon systems. To reduce these hazards, the U.S. will require that once drones are in the hands of foreign governments, they must only be used for military purposes like self-defense, not used for unlawful surveillance or attacks against domestic populations, and operators must receive proper training. But no international norms have been developed to regulate the use of military drones.
We have largely had this field to ourselves for more than a decade, and the rules that have evolved have been largely rules that we created for ourselves.
Rules that have allowed 2 parallel drone programs to evolve. One led by the U.S. military, another run covertly by the CIA that has been used to kill terrorist targets like U.S.-born al-Qaeda cleric Anwar al-Awlaki in Yemen.
I expect we would be reluctant to endorse others engaging in targeted assassination, but certainly is something that we've done and done it with impunity.
President Obama has admitted the nature of drone warfare often leads to secrecy.
The very precision of drone strikes and the necessary secrecy often involved in such actions can end up shielding our government from the public scrutiny that a troop deployment invites.
So even with U.S. oversight, it may be impossible to ensure the drones the U.S. sells are used appropriately, and ultimately agreements made in a time of peace may not apply in a time of war.
In the future, the countries that we provide them to will certainly agree to whatever limitations that they're subject to at the time of sale, but when their back's against the wall, when they're threatened, when they're attacked, when they think it's in their national interest, those agreements may not be quite as meaningful as we think they are now.
As the industry grows, military drones are becoming big business. One U.S. forecasting firm predicts that in the next decade or so, the military drone market will more than double, becoming a $2.3 billion a year business by the year 2023. Nathan?
Thanks, Jim. That was CCTV's Jim Spellman reporting.